board president of One Community Grocery Co-op. After that, we have Walter Smith. Walter Smith is an environmental engineer. He's also a professional public health and remediation of land and land development. So we're thankful to have you here as well. Next to Walter is Tamisha Darley Robertson. She is the president and CEO of Pinellas County Association of Realtors, and she is the owner and managing broker of Darling Robertson Realtors. Give it up for Tamisha. To the right of Tamisha is the ever-present and ever-present chief executive officer of the city of St. Petersburg, the incomparable Carl. Oh my God. And next to Carl, coming up on the end, last but not least, we have Trevor Mack, president of Neighborhood Home Solutions. Give it up. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to join these guys in the conversation. We have four main topics that we're going to cover today. We're going to cover housing and home ownership. We're going to cover economic development and community wealth, green economy and environmental resilience, and fourth, economic policy, equity, and social justice. And the breakout groups afterwards are going to be in one of those four issues. So as we're going through, think about if one of those really sparks your fancy and something you want for the conversation. All right? All right. With that, let's get started on this conversation. I want to start first by talking about housing and home ownership. And I think I want to start this off with me. For the people out here,
Well, first, I want to first start off by saying that home ownership is more than just a luxury. It is a tangible reality for Blacks, right? Now, I am part of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, NARAB, and we are more than just a transactional type of opportunity group. We truly believe in democracy and housing, and we also believe that home ownership is the catalyst for building generational wealth, stability, and pride. So now, when we talk about where we are right now, we understand that we have a housing deficit. Affordable housing, we've done the numbers don't lie. We do have 2 million mortgage-ready Black people nationwide. 2 million nationwide. 90,000 Blacks are in Pinellas County. However, only 500 mortgage applications came through, right? And of that, 21% of those applicants were denied. 21% of Black applicants were denied mortgages to the 8% white denial rate within our county. So we know that there is an issue. We know that there is a real issue. Now, the housing deficit, our housing supply is lower today. The housing demand outpaces new home construction by 100,000 units annually. 100,000. And the affordability of that right now is the affordability rate on income is 90,000 a year. 90,000 a year. However, the median home income for Blacks is 52,860,000 a year. That's a huge gap. So whereas we know that the Black wealth employment gap has decreased, the Black white wealth gap has continued to widen. It's continued to widen. So when we're talking about issues, we have to first determine what those are, right? And then what we can do. And I know that's why we're here today, to all come together to collaborate and try to find out how we can change this, because it definitely has to change. And I don't want to take too much time, but yeah.
Trevor, can you
Check. Okay. Yes, absolutely. And thank you for that question. And Tamisha just threw out some numbers, that are very concerning. Like he said in my introduction, I'm the president for Neighborhood Home Solution. And what we are is that we are a housing counseling program. So we counsel people and we prepare them to become homeowners, not renters, but homeowners. 95% of the people that come through that door look like me, right? So we teach a class monthly. And right now, this month, we have about 43 people attending that program. 80% of those will complete the program. They'll get their certificate and then they'll get excited. Then they'll go out. We'll hook them up with a lender and they'll get approved for 200,000 and they're excited until they realize nothing in St. Pete will pass an inspection that you're going to pay 200,000 for. Right? So that's a problem. My mission at Neighborhood Home Solution is to put ability back into affordability. How do you do that? Your question was the fast track to it. I think it really is going to have to start with legislation, right? Because how do you explain someone in St. Pete that has a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, let's just say a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and they're paying rent? That rent's going to be 17, 18, maybe even $2,000 a month, right? And they do that successfully for 2 to 3 years to provide for their families. But then they go into a bank and they're told they don't qualify for a mortgage. That blows my mind. I don't understand how that's possible in today's time when you're talking about the housing struggle that we have now, right? So how do we fix that? We need real programs. We need to really define what's affordable. What's affordable in Short Acres is not what's affordable in Jordan Park, Childs Park, Botley Park, Camel Park. I don't understand how all that's combined together. It messes everything up. When you're talking about true affordability, it's here and it can be done. And there's a way to do it. We just got to get with the right partnerships. We got to get with the right organizations and groups in the city of St. Pete. We all need to come together and make it happen. And I'm not just talking word of mouth. I did it for the last 10 years. I worked for an investment group and we did it with 104 properties and we sold them all affordable after about 8 years of renting affordably. At this point in time, people do not need new construction. They just need a place to call home, right? So when you put into play land lots in South St. Pete, 100,000, 125,000 to construct on that lot, 230 to 250,000. The affordability is gone. Like, how do you build that? You're 350,000 in, so where's the affordability in that? So some of the lessons learned for me is it's simple. Like, everybody just doesn't need new construction. They just need a place to call home. And there is a way to get to that. I just don't want to throw it all out there just yet, but there is a plan for it. And I think I just did. Right? To put the ability, right, we're going to put the ability back into affordability, and there's a way to make that happen.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. First things first, good evening. On behalf of Mayor Kenneth T. Welch, I am the city's Chief Equity Officer, and I want to acknowledge, if you don't mind, Brian, Councilperson Director here, Brother John Muhammad from District 7. Good to see you as always, and for your work here. I want to acknowledge city staff. George Smith, who's director for our CRA projects, and I'll reference him throughout my presentation. So, George, good to see you. So at the end of the day, you have to ask the question, so what is the role of government in these kinds of dilemmas as they're interpreted by data and by situations? And so right now, the city, as you well know, is on a housing build spree, trying to make affordable housing available to citizens at 80% below an AMI. We're not getting that interpretation from lots of folks, but it is happening. I can tell you from the inside out that it is happening. as fast as one can build buildings. But the bigger question to me is that if you're in the search of a mortgage, sort of qualifying for the mortgage, and where are the jobs that pay the salaries that you can qualify for the mortgage, and many of those are coming online, but we're not qualified necessarily as a community for some of those jobs. That's why I'm encouraging organizations that create jobs or job readiness programs to start getting folk ready to work in industry where they're paying more money. You'll hear a lot about the tech industries, which are starving for more people of color to work in the industry, and we're not getting the applicants as fast as the jobs are available. Construction and trades. The gas plant project is a $6.5 billion spread over 20 years, and the cornerstone of that will be construction of new property per parcel. So where is that population in our county that can compete through an RFP to win the bid to do that kind of work? We got to have a broader conversation, and this is not a slight against nonprofit organizations, but per square mile on the South Side, we have far too many nonprofits employing people at the professional level and not enough corporations employing people that pays competitive salaries. So I'm saying the end of the nonprofit, if you will, although there's a purpose for that. Let's move toward more for-profit corporations that can employ more people. I want to shout out to Renee Edwards, who has emerged as one of the key leaders in our town in mobilizing the small and mid-sized business community to grow. And she's coming to us for some support, and I'm sure at some point we will give her some. But that's the new model, my friends. The new model going into the decade is let's hear from some more entrepreneurs who can hire more people, pay the competitive wage, and then qualify for the mortgages of the community. Absolutely, at the end of the day, and encouraging that to happen, and holding the lenders and the industry accountable for the percent of mortgages that are not happening. You mentioned many of the people who don't have a mortgage, so let's hold the industry accountable, because some of that is deliberate. But you look around the room or look around the neighborhood, and how many people have a real estate license and that look like me, that live in the area? How many people have title trade to process mortgages? We need a lot more people on the inside of the industry, and thank God for you and that can then process a lot of our mortgages and get us into these homes. It's a much bigger picture than we'd ever think about.
How many realtors look like that?
Yeah.
You spoke about the delta perception between a lot of the things that are going on and what the public perceives is going on. So it seems like I'm going to take education also accountability. So that I'm going to ask for your opinion on this.
Hello. All right. Yes. Again, my name is Walter Smith II. I'm an environmental engineer, epidemiologist, and I've dealt a lot with when I started out in business, started out doing home inspection. For the longest time of all, I was the only black home inspector in Tampa Bay. So I watched a lot of things happen with regard to real estate. Everything that you said is very correct, but there are some much deeper issues that are happening that we really, really have to voice today, right now. One of those things is the issue of gentrification. Now, gentrification is an economic term, not a racist term. It's an economic term. But because of its practice by racist individuals in our communities that followed up with redlining, what we ended up seeing was our communities being taken away. Now, we had agency in that. Because we allowed many of our communities to go into slum-like states when there were actually programs out there like brownfields programs that could have saved our communities, but we didn't move fast enough. And the reason we didn't move fast enough was partly because we didn't know. Okay. So when we never involved ourselves with the issues of redevelopment from the standpoint of the environmental state. White people knew it, we didn't. Well, no problem, because there's another part to that. Now, when you talk about the issue of economics, Economics plays a bigger role with regard to home ownership because of the fact that when you talk about these houses that are being put in our communities, where they're $100, the max is $100,000 in our communities a lot of times, right? Y'all don't act like y'all don't know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about because when white folks came in and started putting these $500,000 homes on the block, that changed everything. And they were encouraging others to come in and come buy it, which took over our communities. And it kicked us out of the ability to be able to buy in our own community because the average income was what, maybe 40, the highest. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that we were missing the boat on something. We didn't stop that. We did not stop that. But the other part of that is training, the preparation of people in our community to go out and go take these technical jobs.
We're gonna get to that part too.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that too. So I wanted to make sure I put that out there. So, okay.
A lot of this stuff that's a lot of these conversations, there's no one discrete thing. Into these, talk a little bit more about the environment. And again, we're gonna have breakout sessions. So if there's a topic you want to dive into, we'll create that time to dive into it. I want to talk about the green economy and environmental. And I just want to start by asking Eric, first of all, thank you. What financial incentives or support can really help move the needle when it comes to environmental sustainable business practices?
Oh man, that's a big one. What can happen? I mean, what we're really talking about is disinvestment in a community. And I'll be more specific because I do live, work, and play in South St. Pete. So the disinvestment in our community is really what is causing, some of which that's causing the issues that we're having down the line in the panel. So when I look at things, and I don't want to go too far left in terms of what do we need? I mean, we need money. That's the bottom line, right? We need money to buy a house. We need money to pay to pay the utilities. We need money to spend throughout our communities. But when we don't have that, it makes it very difficult. But what brings money to a community? Institutions, businesses. And where are those in our community? Where's the grocery store? Where's the bank? Where are the things that employ people to make money? And we're not talking about professional jobs where you can go to a building. We're talking about service industries. We're talking about restaurants. We're talking about all those things that circulate money in a community. And once we have that circulation, I think that will put us in a better position. And we won't have to kind of, they say the average dollar in the Black community lasts 6 hours. 6 hours. And one of the reasons it lasts 6 hours is because where are we going to spend it in our community? Where's the grocery store? Where's the clothing store? Where are you going to buy sneakers at? All those things.
Yeah,
Okay,
Brian,
I'm
when you
sorry.
mentioned green economy, are you referring to dollars as green? Or are you referring to the economy, the environment challenges that we face as an area? Which one are you? The environment. And are we challenged by that in terms of infrastructure? What's your perception as to why that would be a question coming out of the green space? Thank you.
One of the things that you talk about in Florida, one of the most important resources we have right now.
Okay.
And as we look at St. Petersburg historically, if we think about the Peace Up and Smoke Up campaign that was going on in Southside, if we look about the history of how historically disadvantaged communities got to work with health. To the point where we have foundation of St. Petersburg, they had their entire goal racially on development. And I think that our part of that is
So does the audience see living on the South Side as a consequence because of the green space that we occupy? I mean, I'm curious. You need an answer. I'm just going to jump in, but I'm just asking rhetorically: do you see this as a Are you challenged by living in the CRA or on the South Side from the environmental side? The see something, smell something campaign, smell something, see something, whatever. Yes, tell me, what is it? Storm? Okay, please, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if it was on. I'm an old teacher, so I'm kind of loud. So sometimes I think people can hear me when they can't. So thank you. But when we talk about the campaigns just mentioned, the see something or I'm sorry, smell something, say something campaign, the storm squad, and things like that. In terms of the environment, yeah, they have an effect because our kids are getting sick. What happens when your child gets sick and you're a working mother or father? You can't go to work. You can't make money. You got to take care of the sick child. What happens when you don't have great health insurance? Because you don't have a job that gives you enough hours to give you the health insurance you need to take care of your family. So when we talk about health equity, when we talk about environment, when we talk about housing, we have to understand that all of these things are connected. When we talk about, and Brian didn't ask yet, but when we talk about food, you are what you eat. And when we have nothing but convenience stores and things like that in our neighborhoods where we can't, where if I wanted to make a quick stop to buy some fresh fruit or vegetables, I couldn't. And I am very thankful for Enoch Davis and the Rec Center and the Healthy St. Pete programs for the, I think they call them Fresh Stops. How many people in here use those?
I'm gonna know about the fresh stuff. Right, go ahead.
Boyd Hill, Childs Park, Wildwood, all have Fresh Stops. And the Fresh Stops are places where you can purchase fresh fruit and vegetables. And to be honest, they're very comparable, if not less, than the grocery store. But how many people know about these programs? So when we talk about all of these things, we need to think about them more intersectionally and as they intertwine together, because we're not going to solve things by just solving housing. We're not going to solve things by just talking about the environment. We have, and I'm going to shout out Carla Bristol with the amazing youth farm. Right? And when we talk about the youth farm, it's not just the fresh produce that you can get from the youth farm, it's the education that you can receive at the youth farm. So because we don't have these grocery stores at the moment, One Community Grocery Co-op is coming through. I'm put that plug out there. But we can educate ourselves and learn from people in the community how we can grow fresh fruit and vegetables. I'll tell you right now, I have onions, carrots, tomatoes, all those things in my yard. And the city of St. Petersburg has been very good in terms of opening up ordinances and policies for people to be able to grow, but not only be able to grow, but be able to sell their produce that they grow in chemical free sometimes in their yards to their neighbors or give it to their neighbors. So we have to, these are some of the solutions, and I know you didn't ask about solutions, and I'm gonna stop.
Well, as that's talking, we're thinking of people, whether it's housing or environment, we keep coming back. So let's talk about the economic policy that really drives things. Because I think in doing that, we'll inform one of the people. I'm going to start with you guys at the end.
Check.
Economic strategies that stimulate our local economy. I'm going to try.
I think we already discussed that. Like we need big industry corporations to come in and actually hire at a livable wage. We fought for, and I think me and Jabbar was having this conversation last week when we wanted to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and it was an uproar like $15, that's unheard of. But really, like we need $25 an hour. So $15 an hour was definitely needed, but at this time, the way the struggle with housing, and it frustrates me every day to see people come in our building, and they leave with a whole different attitude because they now realize like that $200 the lender qualified them for really gets them nothing. So they have to continue to rent. And these are the people that actually keep this city going because they're in the hospitality industries. Um, a lot of us are fortunate enough to eat out or go to the movies or take your family to a ball game or whatever, but there's a lot of everyday people that just can't afford to do it on the wages that they're actually being paid to work double the time. Um, you heard Tamisha say the salary of a person, um, one person on average is 54,000, and I wonder how many hours does that person necessarily have to work to even bring in 54,000, and what type of jobs are they working? Labor sends people to the grave a lot earlier than it should be because they're working that hard to provide for their families. We just got to we got to figure out a better way to take care of people. It can't be just about an individual or a big corporation or a bottom dollar. It's got to be about the people who actually make the world go round, right? So we got to find a way to put more money into people's pockets. Um, we're losing our housing industries because minimum wage in other states up north are well beyond what we're getting here. We see people from up north, they buy houses not even coming to look at them, sight unseen, and they're cash offers. And that's because they've been working 20 years and their minimum wage was $25, $30 15 years ago, right? So their pockets or and their bank accounts are a lot better than what we're seeing in Florida. And again, that's all about legislation, man. Like we got to change our Florida laws, need to get better because investors thrive off of Florida, and they definitely thrive off of Florida real estate, Florida land. We're surrounded by water. Who doesn't want to be here? With the rise in property taxes and all that stuff, now some of them are hightailing it out of here because it's not as sweet as they thought. And they got here and they feel what we've been feeling for the last 25, 30, or maybe even longer than that. But we just got to get better paying jobs, and we got to find a way to put more money into people's pockets to sustain what they need to do.
Let me ask everybody a question. They can't meet you on Facebook. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody on Facebook. Thank you for joining us virtually. You are valued partners. Let me just poll the audience. Who here believes that if you work 40 hours in the city, that you should be able to live in that same city? All right. So I think that goes to show that no matter what your role is in this city, there is a consensus that you should be able to make a living wage. Does anybody recall the study that came out? How much an individual has to make in this city for a lifetime? Huh? $84,000. We prefer to be able to $50,000. That's the majority of the people, our neighbors who live next to us, who live in the neighborhood that we stay in right now, cannot afford to live comfortably in the city in which they live. As we go forward and as we talk today, I want us to keep that in mind because that needs to inform every conversation. It needs to inform how we hold our companies accountable. It needs to inform how we hold our officials accountable. Policies. And with that, I want to talk about the other end. We talk about how much we pay for this, but the other end is paying and finding and creating high-paying jobs. This is where I get the opportunity to get my testimony. 4 years ago, I woke up in prison. Today, I'm a homeowner with a six-figure salary, and I was able to find that way. Because I found a high-paying job. This is my ticket right here. I'm in tech, software developer. I'm I'm the director of a school that trains software. If you know somebody in your family that wants a capacity for that field, let me know. I got business cards. I want to talk about that. But one thing I do want to talk about is how can we help create jobs and how can we save up support the individuals who get access to those jobs? I don't want to be by myself. I want to be a room full of people.
Absolutely. And there's no doubt about it that government plays a role in establishing workforce development programs, investment opportunities. We have convening power, so pulling together the investment community inside of South St. Petersburg to look at opportunities per square mile, trying to create more affordable storefront space. Affordable housing is certainly a challenge, but so is affordable storefront space. So you can take the business out of your living room into the plaza somewhere in the area and double or triple your profits. So absolutely, government has a role, and our mayor is very, very clear in terms of how we're moving that agenda aggressively forward by funding those organizations like Renee Edwards as a model and beginning to scale what she does on a regular basis for small and mid-sized businesses. But at the end of the day, even then, the discipline of how you manage your money is just as important. I mean, a credit score is important when you go to apply for the mortgage. How many people's credit score is at 850? Think about it. Don't raise your hand. I don't want to know your business. But there are a lot of folks who have not paid attention to that part of your life. You had a great time. You spent your money. You've lived the life you have, and wonderful. But guess what? At the end of the day, a mortgage is a qualifying transaction. It is not a charity. It isn't benevolent. It's a qualifying. You qualify. So at the end of the day, you must ask yourself the question, going forward from today, can you bring more discipline to your life, more savings in your portfolio to qualify for a bigger piece of property? That's equally as important in our economy.
Yeah, I just want to comment on a couple of things that I've heard. And one was people over profit, right? The community makes a difference. And that's one of the reasons we're all here today, because we believe in community, right? We believe in helping one another, right? The other thing that I heard was, education, saving, being financially literate. Like there are a lot of people who, because their parents lived from paycheck to paycheck, because they were not able to save a dime, because every dime was going to food, housing, clothing, all the essentials that we must have. It's kind of hard to go to a financial literacy class and they say, well, you gotta save, you've got to have something you can say, and then say, oh, well, you got to cut something out. Well, I work 80 hours a week, and you asking me to cut out the one thing that brings me joy. I'm not gonna say anything, but that's kind of hard. And so when we talk about those, and I'm gonna always bring it back to anchor institutions, anchor businesses that will cause money to flow and circulate. So for me, defining an anchor institution is an institution that doesn't take money outside of the community. It gives money to the community. It helps the community circulate. So, and one of the ways, and it's kind of hard to do that when we are solely relying on corporate interests that lie outside of our community. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a part of one community grocery co-op. I'm gonna bring it back, because how many people, like, I'll raise my hand first because I'm not from St. Petersburg, but I love St. Petersburg. You get on a plane with me leaving St. Petersburg, I'm gonna ask you why. So if you're not from St. Petersburg and you've ever been involved in a co-op or shopped at a co-op somewhere else in the United States, please raise your hand. All right, very good. One of the things about co-ops is they invest in the community, not only through people and the business that is being formed, but through their actions. And I'll say some statistics now. Right. Okay. Oh, hold on. Thanks. Okay. I'll hold on. But I'll just say that we need more things that are investing in our community. We need more institutions that are here and understand the everyday struggles that we face, not someone who is outside of our community who says, and that was one thing I heard too, a charity. Like, I'm going to build this here. You know I will, but I'll stop.
Again,
Thank
the green, the co-op is something that's supporting housing please, and then I want to go to Keith because education.
I want to circle back to my intro. There are 2 million mortgage-ready Black people nationwide. That means that they've passed the credit. That means that they are ready to buy homes based off of their credit. So I understand what all of my counterparts are stating. However, we have people that are able right now. And when I say able, I mean as far as, right,
Sure.
they're
Yeah.
when it comes to their credit. So this is not a St. Pete, this is not a Pinellas County, this is a national issue when it comes to Black home ownership. We own less properties today than we did in the 60s. Hear me. We own less property today as Black people than we did in the 60s. Now, think about that. We own more land and homes prior to the 1968 Fair Housing Act. So, when we're talking about education, we're not discussing book marks, right? Because my grandfather didn't have an education. He dropped out. I mean, he had an elementary, I believe, education, However, he owned nothing but land and properties. So the generations we learned through that, and this was something that was brought up in our State of Housing in Black America event. Someone was talking about education not just being about book smart, but how that the knowledge, that interest was passed down from generations to generations. So we believe in buy it, keep it, pass it. You build it, you keep it, you pass it. So although I commend a lot of the buy Black back the blocks initiatives, we got to learn not to give up our properties. We have to stop giving up our blocks. We need to get back to a position right now to where we're loving where we live. Because the problem with this is that we've all kind of fallen into this whole narrative of the hood, right? As Black people, this hood mentality, that's the issue. So the moment that we think that we've arrived is because we've gotten out of that community. But then we talk gentrification because now other people value our land and our properties. So now we're talking about, hey, let's get this initiative to buy back the block. Let's stop giving up the block. And I'm gonna say something else. If anybody in here owns a Land Rover and you're not a landowner, see me, that's an issue. See me, that's an issue.
I would be remiss if we did the whole time.
Good evening, everybody. And so education, I'm just going to start by saying we need to take accountability, guys. We need to take accountability. And education, like Ms. Darling said, is not just book smart, it's all across, right? But I only know the book end of it. So if you want to be a homeowner, if you want to get approved for those mortgages, what can you do to better position yourself? Well, you got to get the education to get the better paying job so that you can get more qualified. You have to have discipline, right? You have to put some things down. And like Mr. Mallory said, you have to make some sacrifices. And that's just the bottom line, honestly. Us taking accountability. No, I'm not from South St. Pete, but I have been living here for quite some time. I've raised my son in South St. Pete. My stepfather's in the audience. He is from South St. Pete. Right? I have a good friend in the audience. She's a reading specialist in Pinellas County for many years. I'm a current teacher in Pinellas County, post-secondary school students. We see it, we work with it every day. It is education that's important. It's education that's going to get you where you want to be, where you need to be. It's education that's going to help you maintain what it is you want and to live that comfortable life, to get in that house. And New Yorkers, Northerners, they're all here. We all see them in traffic, right? They are raising up. They are raising up all of the costs that us Floridians, our pay is not changing, but their big money pay, their big accounts, they're coming to St. Pete, they're coming to Tampa, and they're raising everything up, right? My parents' block where they live, South St. Pete, people on that block have that hood mentality. Our students, they have that hood mentality. When we ask them to do more because we know they have the potential, they look at us like we have four heads. I mean, it's just what some people are just used to, accustomed to. It's been handed down, but now it's up to them to go ahead and want to change that for themselves, for their kids, and for their kids' kids. So it's got to start somewhere. And, you know, we need to look at ourselves and say, you know what, I want to be the start. Like Michael Jackson said, let's start with the man in the mirror.
Love to hear some of what you guys before we go to the breakout. If there is a question, something that you guys really want to touch on, I will ask you guys about the audience.
Yes, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, someone invited me here, and I just thought I'd come and share my thoughts with you guys. I've been a property owner here, representative of properties in St. Petersburg, Florida, and it's very challenging. I hear some of the complaints about losing properties and da da da. To me, the essence of the problem is we have to take the grandmas and the granddads and show them that, oh, by the way, you got to execute a will with a trustee in your family, because the family are going at each other and they'll never get anything done. So you get one representative to represent your estate, so that when you pass away, that one person can represent your family and sign off on whatever they choose to do. Otherwise, there's going to be infighting, and in the end, the property is going to go under, and there goes the inheritance for the family, and the wealth goes down the drain. So you want to stop that, address that, right? Now on the other side, okay, well, I'll talk all day.
No. Right, yeah. No, let's talk about that. So my organization, Pinellas County Association of Realtors, we just had an event called What to Do with Big Mama's House. And it discussed just what you're talking about, heirs property. Because here's the thing. Big Mama is writing out a will. Big Mama is putting that in her safety deposit box, thinking it is, y'all gonna find it once Big Mama is gone. The thing with that is once Big Mama passes away, number one, there's a process to even get inside that safety deposit box, number one. Number two, if Big Mama did not go through the proper, resources, because again, we talk about resources, then that will is most likely unenforceable in the state of Florida. There are certain guidelines to make that will enforceable. So that is important for us to be able to educate our Big Mamas. There are different things and different processes. I'm not an attorney, so I cannot speak as one. But we had a panel of nothing but attorneys speaking. And so I want you to encourage anyone that's, looking to do their will and take care of their heirs property. I know that we have a lot of community law firms. I know Bay Area Legal is one. We have another community legal. Can y'all think of any of the names? But if y'all can add to that. But I encourage everyone to seek guidance, legal guidance with that, because he's absolutely right. And I've seen it on the real estate side, to where there is property, to where one family member, it only takes one to hold out. It only takes one, where all the other siblings are ready to to sell, and that one will not. And so, I've seen them lose the property. They will lose that property versus settle with their loved ones. They will lose that property. It's the saddest thing. So I definitely encourage exactly what he's stating. that is something that people think about. I'm sorry.
Oh, I want yes, go ahead. Oh, okay. Thank you. My name is Brittany. I'm a resident and business owner here. My question kind of goes into what he's saying and all the issues that you guys are talking about. But the only thing I can think about is why not be preemptive and get into our schools and teach financial literacy? We don't know how money really works. Nobody knows that the money does not represent the gold in the treasury. That's not true. Nixon stopped that in 71. You're carrying around debt. We don't know that. So before we get to the point where we can even get a good paying job or be a good homeowner, we don't know anything. We're catching up in our 30s and 40s. So what are we doing about getting into the schools and putting some financial literacy into that?
I wasn't taught finance. Learning.
Okay.
So I expect you to-
Yeah, so at Neighborhood Home Solutions, we do have a financial literacy program, and it's designed for adults, right? So since I've been brought in, one of the things that I wanted to initiate was a financial literacy summer program for youth, right? I know it doesn't fix everything, but we got to start somewhere. So in my program, because when they were interviewing me for the position, I was interviewing them. And when I say that, that is me going, before I accepted the job, I went and sat in on the course that they teach, which is homebuyer education and financial literacy. And I own my home. I've been owning it for 15, almost 18 years. So, and me and my family, we're okay. We live well. But sitting in on that course, I realized I wasn't even doing it right. Financial literacy. And what I also realized is I have a 17-year-old who's about to go to college. She's going to take that course. You know, it's free of charge. We don't charge anyone to take the course. So I'm going to make sure she takes it. My 14-year-old daughter's going to take it. My 10-year-old, I think she's a little too young, but you best believe before she leaves my house, she's going to take a financial literacy course, because I was educated myself thinking, oh, I'm living right. I'm doing everything right. And, you know, I'm wasting money. I'm throwing money away because of the way I'm living my life on a day-to-day basis without considering the financial literacy education that I was missing, right? So what we want to do at Neighborhood Home Solutions, and I really advise you to reach out to us, but we are trying to coordinate and put together some summer programs that will educate youth during the summer. We're trying to hopefully maybe they can get some of those, you know, those credits they need, those, what are they called? Those volunteer hours they need to go to, what's the scholarship? Bright Futures, right? If we can tap it into that and then maybe incentivize them at the end of the program, then we think it'll be a good start. And it's really a shame that it's not taught in school, right? Because even teachers with their salaries, they should be begging for things like that, because they need to find a different way as well, because they're not paid the greatest here in Florida. But again, don't get me started on that. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I'll just add something real quick, because for about 14 years, I was an educator in Pinellas County Schools. And one of the things that I did is and my students, my former students still remember, it was easy for me because I taught math, is there was this program called Plan Your Future. And I got those CDs printed and we played the game. It was like, if anybody, this is back in the day, so if you remember Sims and stuff like that, the kids got to choose. And these were middle school students. But I also like to hit on what Tamisha said. Her grandfather didn't make it to middle school, so he wouldn't have been in my class. But who taught him about owning property? Who taught him how to save money? The community taught him. And so when Trevor, when you say your 10-year-old daughter is too young, not at all. Not at all. Because if anybody's ever been to Achieve a Credit Union, they would have saw my little babies walk in there. And it worked. And I can say personally, it works, because since the time my children could ask me for something, they got to go to the bank. They got to do a chore. They got to do a job. And there's some chores you don't get paid for in the house, right? because we got to take care of and maintain our house. But we have to take our children to banks with us. And I know everybody uses mobile banking now, right? But I'm going to tell you, it's a different experience when you have to go in that bank, and as a child, you got to give them that money, that tangible dollar, even if it's a debt note. They don't know nothing about debt note. They know it's gone when they go in that bank account. And so, so it's one of those things where we also have to, I know a lot of it is, we say responsibility, but some of these things, and I'm going to say it now, are systemic. They are because we live in red line areas. So if I didn't buy in a red line area, guess what? My house had equity, and I could go to the bank and borrow off that equity. But because I live in a red line area, because I want to live in my community, and I buy this house and I'm not educated about location, right, Tamisha? Then I find out I bought this house, it's where I live, I'm comfortable, but then when I go to the bank to try to refinance, to get some money to fix that roof, remember we talked about maintenance? Oh, I can't get no money because I don't have any equity. And so sometimes we have to, as a community, teach one another about these things. We have to understand that your first house that you buy doesn't always have to be your last. You might need to just buy a house to get into something so you can save that money. So, I'm sorry, I'm finished.
Let me pull that audience real quick. How many people here took a financial literacy class in school? Okay, a few people. How many people here either themselves or know somebody in the community that offers free financial literacy training? Look around the room. The training is out here. All right. So one of the things that we need to do is incumbent upon us as leaders in our community, as active engaged citizens in our community, is identifying the resources, identifying the little micro communities that need those resources, and do what we do. Making that connection.
Okay, so my question, I'm sorry, my name is Sarah, and my question was kind of answered, but I still want to touch on the fact that we talked about education. And one of the things that I didn't have, because my husband and I did, and we were able to qualify for a house. We don't live here in St. Pete. We live actually in Pinellas Park, but we were able to qualify for a house, and we did not have the best credit. Mine was a little better than his, but right now I'm struggling in trying to get him to understand we can't pay bills late. And with that education, there needs to be more education in regards to your credit score. And I don't think that a lot of the panelists have talked about that. And I'd like to know, like, what would you be doing in a community to help people understand that if your credit score is a 625, what do you need to do to bring it up to a 725, to an 825? Because the highest you can get is an 850. But, so that's one of the things about education that the community needs to know about too.
Yeah, short and sweet, right? I would like for you and your husband to go to nhsfl.org, register for our class, and we'll help you out with helping your husband to understand the importance of correcting that credit score. That's nhsfl.org, and it's a financial literacy course, and you can do it online. You don't have to come to our facility for this course. We have HUD certified counselors that's HUD certified, and they will help you out with that situation.
Excellent. I was going to say, it's probably the best feeling
Westchester County. It's that way right now. And that's GTE Federal Credit Union. And they write mortgages. It costs $5 to open an account. It costs you more to get into the nightclub and to buy a drink. When they first opened, we opened 1,500 accounts in an area where they said it couldn't be banked. Also, I want to share with you, USF St. Pete. Let me show you how this works. USF St. Pete is now one of 3 preeminent universities. It was only Florida State, Florida, and now USF St. Pete. And the reason I say that is because if you go to St. Pete College and you get an AA degree, we have money in a bridge program to get you in the USF St. Pete right here, or the USF system, which is a medical school we brought money back from, and whatever you want a challenge to do. Also, in that St. Pete College, they have a partnership. When you talk about jobs and money through the government workforce initiative, they partner with Lockheed Martin to train those aviation engineers that make a minimum of $100,000. And that's right there off of Roosevelt. And these resources are right here. I think Midtown is SPC is right on 22nd Street. And but I really want to touch on, I wanted to ask you guys, with all this stuff that we have out there, how come the people aren't utilizing it? You know, when we gave up the building on 22nd Street, the gym, the Jordan gym, that came with a community benefit that the college provide to the people of Jordan Park. And what I mean by that, they get free book vouchers. They get free credits and the resources to go to school one block. They can walk one block and get there. And once they get in there, they can go on to USF, which is a preeminent university, and get these high-paying jobs. But I want to know why we don't have all those resources in one place. Because, I mean, like I said, this is great information. But a lot of people in this room do not know that all this stuff is already here. It's in the community. They just don't know. And my most favorite Bible verse, and I'll cut off with this, is Hosea 4:6. And it says, my people are destroyed. They've been destroyed for lack of knowledge.
Building.
One of the reasons that I did organize it, because there are a lot of resources that people have no idea about. There's a lot of resources that, like we say, die on the vine, where the resources will be sent back to the federal government or back to the grantee because they didn't use it or it wasn't utilized. So one of the main reasons we put this together is just to start having the conversations about the resources, to talk about what's out there and what's not out there. So some of this is actually been intention, because what we want to do is we want to help our community by tapping into the resources that's already here, like the natural resources. And a lot of times we don't know about it. Like you said, when they sold or got rid of that gym, I had no idea that there was resources tied to that. And to be honest, a lot of people don't. The people who live in Jordan Park don't know. And that's a component to what that's why we got to do this stuff, because if there is a community benefit tied to something, what is the use of it if the community doesn't know about it? How can we benefit from it? So
what I would add to that, right, is look at the room. Look who's sitting next to you. And I'm gonna say that, Brother Jabbar, this was a good event. And I think this needs to happen more often. Right. I think this needs to happen more often, so then therefore more people will be aware of the resources that are out here. He asked the question, how many people you know in the community that has access? It was at least 20 hands raised in here. So, but it's only maybe 50 people in the room. Next time it needs to be 150 people in the room, and that same question should be asked, and then, you know, you guys will know who to identify. Everyone on this panel has something to offer. Everyone, to every question that was asked today, there are resources out there. So to you, Mr. Newton, you're representative. You hear from St. Pete, so you need to put on some events like this as well. We can't just leave it up to people like Brother John and Brother Jabbar to do these type of events. It takes more community people who are invested into this community to get the education to the people who really need it. It's depressing for me to see all the people come in our office and they don't have a clue. right? And I took a financial literacy course at 51 years old, and I didn't have a clue some of the things that I learned. So I'm still being educated, and I'm willing to educate anyone who wants to understand.
There's there's also something to be said for gatekeepers. Those who do not who keep information to themselves for whatever reason they exist. Okay, we gotta stop that. We gotta stop that. I teach OSHA, HAZWOPER, HAZMAT courses. I teach MSHA courses, which is for mining state. How many people know about MSHA? Right here. MSHA. Have you ever heard of OSHA before? Everybody heard of OSHA, right? There's also MSHA. You've heard about that. The reason you hear about that is because nobody talks about it. And I talk about it consistently. The reason that nobody hears what I'm saying is because a lot of times I get put in a box. They think just because I'm an environmental guy that this has nothing to do with the environmental. Wrong. Housing has to do with the environmental stuff. Your economics has to do with the environmental stuff. The food you eat has to do with the environmental stuff. The streets that you walk on, drive on, environmental. The air you breathe, the water you drink, everything that you do and where you're sitting right now is environmental. Okay, please stop doing that to yourself. 20 years ago, before my father passed away, we sat in Beulah Baptist Church in West Tampa, and we listened to white people sit right in front of us and tell us what they were going to do in our community. They sat right in front of us. Say it again. They sat in front of us, told us what they were going to do in our community. This is 20-some years ago. They told us how far they were going to do it. They said who was going to be for, and they said who was not going to benefit from it. In a room, in a black church, amongst a number of black people. And guess what happened? West Tampa was almost unrecognizable. There used to be, and I'm going to show you an example of what they started with that did it. Because the same thing happened right here in St. Pete. There used to be a field, a sea of nothing but warehouses, sheet metal warehouses, the whole nine, all contaminated areas, every bit of it contaminated. And those white folks sat right there and waited and waited and waited, and nobody shared that information with us. Information. No one said anything about using brownfields or EPA guidelines to do anything about it. The state of Florida knew it and they let it happen. The city of Tampa knew it and they let it happen. The county knew it and they let it happen. There are some black people who knew it and they let it happen. I knew it and I kept telling people consistently, but they didn't listen to me. Didn't listen to me until years later, the white man came and said, oh, here's brownfields. And then they believed me. Oh, you were sure right. Yeah, well. Access to information.
I think where the question was, it lies in access to the information and individual skills. In my crazy life, I've seen every swath of America. And what I see every day is I see people who are concerned and want the best for their family. But like we just said, they're struggling every day just to put food on the table and to support their family. They may not have time to go to a resource. That's one part. The other part, this is on all of us, as we are part of it. We are also the ones who are involved to begin with. We are here talking, but one of the things we're doing is sticking to the fire. We need to talk to the people who need it, but to get the message to them where they are. And what does it mean to get a message to somebody where they are? Is it good enough for me to come to your household and offer you this opportunity? I would say we don't even define what that means. We only know we're doing it right and I can say verbally that we are not doing a good enough job meeting the people who need it where they are.
And Brian, I think to Jabbar, this could be a part one. Your part two is bring the resources around the room. Brother George Smith in the back is the just promoted manager over our CRA for the city of St. Petersburg, generating $25 million a year. George, please stand up. This brother is a hero. $25 million a year. So I would suggest next time, Brother Jabbar, surround the room with those of us who have the resources and can give you the resource after you ask the question. That's how you move the needle, folks. Take full advantage of where we are, where we sit, the jobs that we have, the power and influence that we have to bring you capital, not just advice, capital to fuel your business. At the end of the day, look at your net pay, your bank balance, and ask yourself the question, why don't I have more money? When the city has money, the government has money, why aren't you getting your blessing? Your blessing's waiting for you, folks. You need to come and get it, claim it, and invest it.
Credentials. So it's also one thing real quick. It's also a matter of credentials. When the credentials are sitting right there, listen, I just mentioned to you OSHA and MSHA, right? And I asked you how many people knew about MSHA. You know how many people are educated? An 18-year-old just out of high school can go work in the mines and make $20 an hour. An 18-year-old. All you have to do is go to take one of my MSHA courses right there at Dr. Walter L. Smith Library on the corner of Albany and Cypress in Tampa. I'll come to you. But there are other people that teach it as well. The point is that you got the credentials are there. An OSHA 40-hour HAZWOPer, forget the 10, you gotta learn about these things. I gotta share this jewel real quick. If somebody tells you they're gonna teach you a 10-hour OSHA course, run. If somebody tells you they're gonna teach you a 30-hour OSHA course, run. Why? Because a 10-hour, and I say this publicly, and I don't care who sees it, a 10-hour and 30-hour OSHA course is not required by OSHA. It's just accepted by the contractor. It's accepted because you will never be able to go into a management position with the 10 and 30. The 40-hour HAZWOPer is the one that they don't want you to have right now, and they're not going to teach it to you right now. From one, because this guy here knows, because of the cost, number one, and number two, because they want to keep you subservient. Just something to tell you. Credentials.
Yeah. I'm going to direct kind of at Carl, because I know you were in the room. The 1,200 affordable housing units that are going to come with the gas plant, they're all for rent. How many attainable homes are included in this plan for the people that are in this room?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I apologize that I can't be specific there. George, do you have any idea what that might be? If you call me later, Dan, I'll get you the answer to that question. Again, as I said earlier, if this is part one, the part two is allow me to bring to the next meeting, Brother Jabbar, those folks at city government that can answer your question, Dan. Thank you for asking that, though.
I had passed it on, but I got to speak now. I'm from right here in St. Pete, and there's a lot of people here doing a lot of legislative and a lot of moves don't even know the history of St. Pete. What we're doing now is swapping things that's been taken away and just taking these crumbs. Like this, whatever this fresh market, it made no sense. I'm with a youth organization, all we do is feed people, but we pass dilapidated grocery stores all the time. But we got Rajax getting Walmart contracts so we can go to Rajax to get some fresh vegetables and stuff. When I was here, we had 2 bowling alleys here. We had Gay Bays, a skating rink. We had Miami Fashion. We had I've been here so long. It's Rutland Bank was across the street, Central Plaza, Dime Store. I watched my first movies down there on 31st. So what we doing, it's crumb snatching. So what we supposed to do is be happy for the opportunities that's being presented. And we talk about resources. I received some of the funds from a Tyrone Lewis when I started my first business in 2002, but that man died in 96. And any people in my hood would have known about this fund, I'm pretty sure the mentality would have changed, would have came now. Then we would have started getting ourselves educated, Carl. You know what I mean? And what we got to do, the fight is not against no black or white, Dan. It's us, bro. It's us. Because in order for you to catch a black man, you need a black person. That's anything. And I'm gonna drop it, but right now it's not about no black or white. It's about color. I mean, of green. It's just about green.
Thank you. I am Ada Jones Davis. I am a native of St. Petersburg, Florida. I went to all black schools. And in 1958, they decided to put Gibbs Junior College in St. Petersburg. And one of those things that a lot of us did was we got those AAs and went on off to Florida A&M. And many of them came back to St. Petersburg. 22nd Street was our main street. We had the movie there. We had the Snow Peak there. We had Geach there. Everything we needed was on 22nd. Now, I saw Sidney Harton's grandsons, and I asked them, I said, how did you all lose your grandfather's business? And they said, we're sorry, but we didn't own it. We didn't think about that. And then I want to say Carl Nurse was our city council. And one of the things he said, I think people of color was upset because he was buying all the houses. And he said to us, he said, don't be mad at me. You could go buy you one. At that time, houses were cheap. And so again, it's getting resource information. I am just excited about this meeting, and I go to all the meetings that I can so that I can help my people. I came here from Oklahoma City, and everything because my husband spent 20 years in the military. He's from Tampa, and I said to him, why do you want to live in St. Pete? He said, because I want something new. And God blessed us to buy our home in Lakewood. And I took a job as a director in Head Start. All of you who know about Head Start, it is so important. They're trying to cut it out. I have had staff members who I said to them, I said, go get you an education. And then they fixed it so that they would pay for the hours. Many of those young women caught on to that and went on and they are teachers today. One of my students, my staff saw me at an event and she said, I am Dr. whatever. I said, you did what? She said, I remember you kept saying go to school. And she went to school and she decided that she knew it was more than just those 2 years. So there are opportunities. We got to teach our children how to take opportunities. I think about when they put the drugs in our community. Black people lost their homes because they put a mortgage on their home to keep the kids from going to prison. Guess what? Them devils was hard enough. They went anyway. So grandma lost her home. We've had a struggle, but the struggle is over. I believe that, like you're saying, we got to come together. The NAACP, how many of us are members of the NAACP? Whoa. We need the NAACP. Our kids don't even know what it is. Am I right about our vice president? This kind of things we need because sometimes just hearing the word reminds you.
Hi, I'm Sharon Joyce Kleitch, and thank you for the story. We need more stories. I don't have a question, I have a couple of statements. I happened to come in late, unfortunately. Heard about the financial literacy piece, and I hope you all know that Fifth Third offers financial literacy also online, and it occurred to me it could happen in a family. You know, maybe the father could learn from the 15-year-old what they're saying on this program, taking it over Zoom. So we call Alvina Miller. Some of you know Pastor Miller. This is his daughter, Alvina, at Fifth Third. So that's one way for financial literacy. The other thing, as I said, I missed some stuff, but are you aware that our federal government just dropped many billions of dollars for green economies this month? And guess what? Our U.S. representative or House representative, Kathy Castor, is head of green economies, and she has an office over on 4th. So you talked about needing money, Erica. I think there's plenty of money. We can get organized, and yes, the suffering's over. Let's get together, all of us, and let's get that money and bring it all over St. Petersburg. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, Marielle Summers, Health Manager at the Pinellas County Urban League. I just had a question, kind of tailored to what Brian was saying about the people who aren't here and want to get the panel's thoughts on the culture. You guys kind of referenced to it a little bit, the Range Rover, driving a Range Rover and, you know, not owning any land. And the lady on the end spoke about how the kids look at her with four heads when they say that we need to. Well, I got to stand. Anybody? No. Okay. Yeah, okay. So the question is cultural because in the Black community, we see it. It's about securing the bag. It's about looking fly. It's about all the things that we're talking about in this room. It's not about any of that. And so, what do you guys think we need to do to move the culture a little bit more in this direction?
How we reach the question, I don't think there's any one thing for answer. When you ask me, I think about the story. If you heard the story about the beach and how the starfish on the beach, millions of them. There's a little girl sitting one at a time, throwing back to the water. And this old person full of it comes up to her and says, "Little girl, you can never make it after millions of starfish. You cannot make it." The little girl looks at the man. You take that and expect. One of the things that I talk about as president of the Family Partnership is getting to know the person right next to you. If we all did that, I think about the community that I've lived in. And one of the things I love about the community I live in right now is I know my neighbor's name. How many of us know all of our neighbors. Each of us took the time to get to know all of our neighbors, make sure that they were doing well. That is the start of the movement. I really love the way that Dr. Scott, we need to find our help in terms of health of our community. None of us here.
Brian, I think the next step of that is that fun. We all love one another. It's wonderful. Thank you very much. But why can't we create corporations after that? So we can embrace each other. We can embrace each other and say we all are a unified community. But for what? If you're unified together, it should be unified around creating a corporation that has a business we're all shareholders in that can bring profit to the community. That's the next step, my friend. I think we've had a lot of our fellowship among people. We don't have enough financeship among our people. And if that's the next step, it has to be. We cannot continue to be the benevolent entitlement community for business. We need to be the investable community. That's very important.
Carl, I just want to say thank you for that segue because that's what a co-op is. That's what a co-op is. It's us looking out for one another. When we talk about one community grocery co-op, we're not talking about giving away free food. We're talking about employing people. We're talking about people getting to make a choice about what they eat. We're talking about with the profits that we have or we create, investing them back into the community. And again, profit, profit, profit over people.
Yes, my name is John Bailey. I am a returning citizen. I have a program called Life from Inside Out where I help returning citizens transition more smoothly back into society. Okay, yes. One of the things I like to point on that we talked about here, one of them is resources. We are never any stronger than our resources, and unless we know where our resources are, we're never going to be able to do anything, in terms of solving these problems that we are facing today. I always think in terms of like back in the days, I went to cooking school and we had what they call a spice chart. And you could go to any particular type of food that you want to cook and you could turn it to that particular food and down that particular thing. It would tell you every type of ingredients that you need in order to prepare this food properly. So I think in terms of our resources, I think we should have something like that. We try to create something like that within the city, whereas we go to anything that we want to talk about, all the things that we talk about, housing, talk about food, we could talk about any type of thing that we might need to help each other. And on that chart, some kind of way, when you turn to anything in particular on that chart and you look down, it would just connect you with all of the resources that are available in the city. And we talked about our youth. One of the things I think you can never underestimate our youth because you think that they might not understand something. But I always think in terms of like in church sometimes when you get into the pastor would get into these biblical stories and things like that, and they would tell you about all these different things and how they describe and use the terminology in the Bible. But some people would tell you, say, hey, break that down for me. When you break it down to your youth, when you break it down into simple terms, you know what I'm saying? They will understand anything, the highest terminology of anything that you would be trying to explain to them. It's the simple form. You got to break it down in the simple form. And I was thinking about Mrs. Darling's grandfather, I think it was, you said, how he owned his own properties and things like that. People back then asked questions. And they would tell you, break it down. But when you break it down to them, they might not have the education. But when you break it down to a simple form, they'll pick it up. And once they pick it up and they understand, oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay, then they'll go from there. But I just wanted to touch on that, but especially talking about our youth. We got to invest in our youth, because they are our future. It's not us. They are our future. We must lead them in that way where we break it down to them and they'll take it from there. If you simplify it and you make them understand the importance of saving, not selling your properties and things like that, they'll truly understand. And that's one of the things I want to say. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to piggyback on what the gentleman right here said and what Mr. Wingate said earlier. My name is Karan John Baptiste. I am the associate provost, I'm the provost of the Midtown and Downtown campus for St. Petersburg College. New in my role, so I want to introduce myself. How many people in here have heard of the Promise Scholarship? Okay. For those who are not aware of the Promise Scholarship, St. Petersburg College has made a promise to 8 schools. The 3 schools in this community, Bogosiega, Lakewood, and Gibbs. If your child graduates as a senior this year, they can attend St. Petersburg College and earn any 2-year degree or any certificate for free. All they need is a standard high school diploma. All they need to do is apply for financial aid, enroll in 6 credits, and fill out the Promise Scholarship form. Tuition is covered. So I just want to make sure that we know about that in this community. The residents in this community are aware of the resources, the educational resources that are provided. And I want to make sure that we take advantage of it. There are not enough students that look like us that take advantage of it. And that's any certificate, any 2-year degree that can then transfer to USF, Florida State, stay at St. Petersburg College and earn your bachelor's degree. So I just wanted to share that piece of information. Didn't want to be the gatekeeper of information. So thank you for sharing that. And I want to make sure that I put that out there to this community. Thank you.
That's it. Hi, I'm Franklin. I live in Campbell Park, and I'm with Brian on the board for the Neighborhood Association. I wanted to just kind of hear you all's thoughts on what it feels, on what you think on holding. Sorry, I have a lot of feelings after hearing everybody talk tonight, but of holding city officials accountable for different things. As living in Campbell Park for the last 5 years, I've seen just a lot of parts of the South Side be forgotten, and things that I thought are very simple. You know, we have Booker Creek running through Campbell Park. Rosa Park side is beautiful, pristine. But when I asked the city questions about the Booker Creek through Campbell Park, they had no one that actually was in charge of maintaining it. It was overgrown, it's covered, and I bump into that constantly with the city where they're like, oh, well, I don't know. And, you know, and I hear...
My brother, you get to call me. So let me give you my number.
Yeah.
Can you remember this? 727-235-8113. You call Mr. Carl and I will solve that problem with you, because our city is, in fact, very committed to this. And I'm not just blowing smoke. I'm saying that I've been on the inside now, and there are lots of opportunities. I will solve the problem with you. I can promise you that.
And so, but continuing on with even just the MLK Business District South, if you look at the state of those buildings there, they're in a completely different standard. And there's accountability measures that I just feel like I don't see happening in this part of town, which just helps with the disinvestment. What person that wants to invest in a business to hire people wants to be surrounded by buildings that are dilapidated by abandoned slumlords? Well, not only on the business side, but throughout the neighborhood as well. I've seen plenty of actual homes that could be for people that are being shuttered, held by outside of investors. On top of that, sorry, this is my last one, I know. But I do want to say that even with all of the plots of land that the city owns on the south side, yes, building a single family home is expensive, but why not make it a duplex? The city makes the rules. You can build 2 very nice single family homes in the space of 1 for a lot less money. So
yes, again, George Smith in the back, the CRA. This is a CRA address. He's left? Okay. Yes, sir. We have the capital is there. George, let me get out of here for call on me again. Yes, but yes, call me please. But I believe in working with you. I'm going to walk around the neighborhood with you, see what you're talking about specifically. Then we'll call the right department, find out what the status is, and get things done. That's how I operate.
Wow. And just real quick, while I have your attention, why can't the city send out flyers to people's homes? They're very quick for these $500,000 houses that are popping up. They're like, you want to do a neighborhood cleanup? We'll send you flyers. We'll do all that. But what about for different CRA grants, all of those for?
That's Brian, and Brian, your president, baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's Brian to do, right? Okay. Brian will take care of that too. So you've been bookended. You got me on one side and Brian on the other.
Hi, my name is Brad McCoy. I am the membership chair of the Council of Neighborhood Associations, and I'm also the president and founder of Neighbors of Lakewood Estates below Boyd Hill. Just wanted to make an announcement that we are the CONA, the Council of Neighborhood Associations, is having a South St. Pete community picnic at the end of this year, November 9th, with nonprofit organizations. If anybody would like to partner, let me know. If anybody would like to have their nonprofit there, it is free. It's at Lake Vista, November 9th. I think it's 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. We would love to have you guys there, as we're also talking about resources. That'd be a great place for everybody to come out, free venue, share information.
Good afternoon. I know that the hour is late, but I just wanted to make sure that we understand how valuable this seminar has been. I want to thank the organizers, Jabbar and company, because it's this kind of information that can move us towards wealth building. Yeah. If a child can graduate and get a Promise Academy scholarship, yeah, and get a 4-year degree and put themselves in the tech field and make the kind of money that you're making, then home ownership is a reality. I think we have to harness all of this information and have an action plan. So I'm just saluting you, yeah, and all that's with you for making these resources known, and let's capture that. Make sure the churches know it, the laundromats, the nail salons, and let's move forward and connect to the wealth that's downtown.
This is my everybody here. This is what our responsibility is. When we leave here, we're going to have a lot of opinions, we're going to have a lot of thoughts. But if you don't come out of here, one to do, one thing that you can do, one actionable item that moves the needle ever so markedly, that is my assignment for everybody here today. I've been looking around and I've been watching everybody here is engaged on something. Each and everybody here has value, has power, can contribute to everything that we talk about. So good.
Okay, I'm not going to be long. My name is Joanne Nesbitt. But my question here, we're all, and somebody said we're singing to the choir. How many have ever been homeless in this room? How many have ever thought about the next meal you're going to eat? Okay? And I mean, seriously, not just tonight, tomorrow. I mean, you're waking up and your children are in a hotel. You are in that same room with your kids in a hotel. When you ride down 34th Street South and you see all those parents and those children, we are talking to people that they're not even ready to get the resources that we're talking about in this room. So my thing is to the city, the hubs that you're doing is the best thing, I think, because it's all about hearing people's stories, okay? When you begin to hear people's stories, then you can respond to where people are. It's wonderful that you have the education and you have all those things, but you have people that are struggling. No, the struggle is not over. The struggle is real to those people that are in those hotel rooms, those children that have to get up in the morning and go to school and learn and know that they got to come back to the hotel, okay? The struggle is real. And once we get to the root of the struggle, now we can begin to have people to access these resources. So please put those hubs. I'm walking down 18th Avenue and you got this building that says for rent, all of these empty places. And you have all these children that need these hubs and all these families that can come in these hubs and talk about their stories and where they are and how they are homeless and hungry. Those are the people we need to reach. That's the root of why we're all sitting in this room today. And so please have more of those hubs. Please make a space where people can come in and talk about their stories so that we know how to respond to what's going on in our communities.
Good evening. I'm gonna be brief. For many of you who don't know me, I spent 27 years at Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church, Midtown, across the street from Wildwood Youth Center. I'm sitting here listening to all of you share about what's going on with our city. Many years ago, I told Gethsemane that St. Pete would be in transition. What you see today, you won't see tomorrow. And we went to sleep on that. Many of the gatekeepers. I just want to say I work for 5 different nonprofit organizations: Bowley, Suncoast, Family Resources, Operation PAR. And I just left Operation PAR a month ago, working with children who have been retained in the Alpha program. I can go on and on and on what it takes. It takes more than just talking. I used to go across the street at Wildwood and coach 10 years there. And I'm gonna just say this, I'm gonna say the statistic. Back in the day, they did a statistic about young black male children from the ages of, from infant to 4th grade. And it was bright. When they got to 4th grade, they started to turn towards the hood mentality. If we're not gonna invest in the nest, then what you think gonna come out the nest? I'm gonna share this here. Mr. Oliver, we did a walk around Melrose when they brought in a new principal. We did a walk around. He called all the clergies to come and support that. And we went around the neighborhood, ministering to the neighborhood, encouraging the parents. And I sat down to Mr. Oliver. I said, Mr. Oliver, the old proverb, African proverb said, it takes a village to raise a child. And I tell everybody this. He said something that was so profound. He said, Pastor Gibson, how can you raise the child when the neighborhood or the village is sick? We got to get real with this. I left Operation PAR. It broke my heart because I was working with children. And I mean children. Everything you said, sister, about home, for the first time since I've been working with Operation PAR for 8 years, we had 7 families that was already homeless, living in shelters with their family and children. So the issues are there. I left there and I'm working with Metropolitan Ministry in Tampa. They just put a satellite unit here at the Sandler Center. We're out to help people, but we're not here to enable people to continue to reach and not, uplift themselves. We help with rental and all of that. Everything that y'all talked about, we help with all of that. But we're not just going to give you something without you, amen, participating in your own, amen, rise to the top. We got to stop enabling people not to move forward. I got 9 children. Guess what? Every one of them graduated, even when I had to go to the drug hole to go get them. Yeah. One of them graduated from college. One that got amen going to FAMU. Got 2 of them went to FAMU. Listen, I've been blessed because you know what? I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be hungry. I know what it's like, amen, I lost my mother to domestic violence. I know all of that. But one thing I do know is how to uplift the next person that needs to be uplifted. One more. 2. Make it quick.
This is
3, 4, 5.
This is just an announcement, and it's urgent. It's urgent. Please listen. Please listen. During the pandemic, the government funded the Affordable Connectivity Program to give broadband to every kid in the community, over millions throughout the U.S. April 24th, the end of April, which is next week, that program ends because they did not fund it. There's no more money. So you're talking about people having a hard time? That provided up to a $30 credit toward internet connectivity for everybody that was marginalized. So that's going to be urgent. We have got to, some kind of way through the city or the CRA, find a way to make sure these young people and these individuals can still log on to their homework and have connectivity. Because these cable companies, it's going to be free reign. But the end of April, which is next week, that program goes away. In May, your bills start going back up.
Master Harold, don't you guys have money for that? Master Harold, stand up, please. Foundation. Don't you have money for that program? Yes. Okay. It's worth the discussion there, Wingate. He got money.
I'm going to call one more question. Also get the last word.
I just had an announcement. I'm Carrie, and I live in Campbell Park, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come out and listen and be a part of this tonight. And I just want to extend an invitation from the Council of Neighborhood Associations that we are trying to encourage the community to come to an event that we're having. It's at the Center for Health Equity. It's on May 14th at 6 p.m. You don't have to be a CONA member. It's open to everyone. And we're opening the invitation to everyone in the community because we really do want to hear what the community has to say and what is important to them and what their priorities are. So again, that's going to be on May 14th at 6 p.m. at the Center for Health Equity. And we really hope that you can make it. Thank you.
All right. There's going to be a free dinner, drumming, and discussion event that's going to take place right here in this room. Free dinner. Yes, that was the first thing. Community connecting through culture and cooperation. Are you interested in food access, security, and sovereignty? Join us Monday, April 29th, right here at 6 p.m. at the Enoch Davis Center. Yep. All right. All right. Okay, so we got to start paying attention to some very, very clear-cut details of things that are going to be critical to this community, especially what we call in our business, what we call is frontline or underserved frontline communities, right? Has anybody here ever heard of an omnibus bill? Anybody, how many people have heard of an omnibus bill? Raise your hand, please. Okay, that's not good because I'm glad to see the people who did, but most people don't know what an omnibus bill is at all. It is one of the depending on what it is being put in there, it is one of the most dastardly bills that can ever be used in legislation, or it can be one of the most powerful bills that's great that's used in legislation. But in this particular case, it's dastardly. The energy companies, here we get TECO for gas, and they get who does electricity here? Duke. TECO for gas, Duke for electricity. Okay, energy companies have gone to the legislature this past legislative session. It passed 1645, HB 1645 and 1946 passed the House and the Senate. It's sitting on the table right now, waiting to be signed by the governor. This energy omnibus bill, how many people have had issues with their electric bills being extraordinarily high? Call an energy burden in our business. People struggling to get out of issues with having raw people to pay Paul in order to pay your electric bill. There are people in public housing that have been evicted, increasing our homeless numbers. There have been people whose children have been taken out of the home because of this type of thing. These are things we fight against in what we do. But this energy omnibus bill is based on the concept of the energy companies being able to take and run gas, fracked gas, through the state of Florida, throughout the state of Florida. Okay, that's the basis of it. Okay, now if they want to run energy gas lines throughout the state of Florida, where do you think they're going to run them? Okay, do you think that they didn't think of that and that there's going to be opposition? They did. So there's a preemption part, another smaller bill, lesser bill that they added into that whole bond. That bit right there, that bit is where they said to, where they're saying to the city councils and the county commission, you can't do anything about it. You can't tell us how much gas, you can't tell us what kind of gas, you can't tell us where to store it, and you can't tell us where to run it or how long to burn it. Who do you think gets sick from this stuff more than anybody else? Black folks do. All right? Understand something. This is a very, very dangerous bill that is likely to be signed and not vetoed by the governor. If we can get information up there right now to let them know, please do not, please veto it, which is likely to be accepted. But understand, Tampa Electric Company is going to follow that up now by going to the Public Service Commission and trying to get a rate increase. How do you think they're going to pay for this infrastructural change? There you go. So your bill, no matter what they say about your bill, going to go down for a couple of months, whatever, the other boot is going to drop. Just like it dropped before, it's going to drop again. And you're going to see the changes. You're going to see the changes. Trust me when I tell you, please get out there, get your voice heard, send letters to the Public Service Commission to deny Tampa Electric Company its rate increase. Please. And if you can get a message up to the governor, please do let him know. Veto the energy omnibus bill, please. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get this all. Give it up for yourself. I think the consensus is the word that we say here. We leave here with the action.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
very much.
And look for in your emails. If you signed in, we'll send you information on the next event. Thank y'all so much for coming out.
Let's get Chris Doniker and you together for the part 2.